Hey guys, my name is Rafael Reich. I am a Brazilian Yu-Gi-Oh player, and on this weekend I got into top 16 of the South America World Championship qualifier, playing a deck that by now is just like the United Ghosts special. I managed to get top 16 with a Fiendsmith Mitsurugi. The theory behind this deck started with Tamis getting into top 8 of the Greece Nationals, then a few weekends after that, Rico got into top 32 of YCS Quito, and now I got into the top 16 of the South America World Championship qualifier. This is also the deck I used to play into the playoffs. I lost in top 8 to the eventual winner, Sebastian Serma. And I'm not saying that if you take my list, it's gonna be the final list, but all over the 3 events we had to play with this deck, we could see a constant creeping growing on the evolution over the theory behind this deck. So I'm not saying that if you take any of their lists, for example, you are playing an outdated version of the list, but also the way we look into this deck altogether has been constantly changing, and that's what I want to show to you guys over today's video, okay? Well, with all that being said, I would like to give a big shout out especially to Tamis and Rico, the guys I worked the most over this deck, from everyone from United Ghosts, and also I would like to give a big shout out to everyone on the South America community. The time I had at the Continentals in Bogota, Colombia was amazing, and with all that being said, let's go for the theory behind this deck. I also would like to shout out Card Market, the sponsor of United Ghosts. That's just possible to do because of them. Well, with all of that being said, let's go for the deck profile. This is the list I decided to play for both the playoff and for the main event. I really don't think you should change your list between both events because you are not building to top the Continentals, you are building to win the event to go to the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship, because on Latin America, just the winner goes to the World Championship, so there is no reason to build your deck only trying to be as consistent as possible or just to get into top 64. You gotta give some odds to some matchups that you are willing to win, okay? So, with all that being said, you can see that some things are standard on this deck. We are playing triple Habakuri, triple Prayers, triple Mitsurugi Ritual, 3 Preparation of Rites, 1 Murakumo, 1 Futsu, 1 Mitsurugi Mirror, 1 Saji, 1 Aramasa, 1 Kusanagi, and 1 Night Sword Serpent. All over the deck cards, it's pretty much the same that every single deck on the current format plays. Triple Ash, triple Fuvalus, triple Purulhas, triple Draw and Lock Bird, also playing 1 Talents, 1 Called by the Grave. So now let's go over the main things you are willing to think about and to discuss about. First, I am playing a slightly bigger Fiendsmith package than Tamis was playing, and is exactly same Fiendsmith package over the Rico deck from YCS Quito. So, what's the deal here? My main problem with this deck is that some of the high quality cards you have on it, they are normal summons. For example, as you could see on Tamis' deck profile, he was playing triple Manju of 10,000 hands. But as much as tested this deck, I was starting to have problems with hands where a normal summon of a Manju or a normal summon of Purulha/Fuavlos would be exact same thing. And also, it was bothering me a lot to draw multiple normal summons altogether, like drawing Aramasa plus Manjus, for example, so I decided to try to cut as many normal summons as possible without losing the consistency, to play cards that are able to help me play without spending my normal summon. And the best card to do it, on my opinion right now, is Fiendsmith Tract. Yes, I know Fiendsmith Tract is kinda weird into Draw Lock Bird, because if you start with Fiendsmith Engraver to Tract, you are 100% losing for Draw and Lock Bird. But in this deck specifically, the use of Tract, it also helps you because makes your Engraver also the kind of card that is an extender without playing your normal summon. So that's super important by having the Fiendsmith Tract. And then your Fabled Lurry works like the second Manju. So by doing so, you cut the 2 Manjus, but you also added another normal summon in form of Fabled Lurry, but you changed 1 Manju for 1 Fiendsmith Tract, and you give another life to a card in your hand that will be the Fiendsmith Engraver, that in other lists, the Fiendsmith Engraver is a fool of a brick. It's a card that you're not willing to see at all. So that's why I really think this package is super important, and also because we are playing the Duke of Demise on the extra deck. Duke of Demise is one of the greatest cards on this extra deck. I really enjoyed to play it, and it's also super important to have the Fiendsmith Tract on your deck for doing so, because then you can use its effect to banish the Duke of Demise from your graveyard to get the Engraver to your hand, and then you are gonna get the Tract follow-up to try to play under your opponent's boards, for example, in this kinda off-grinded situation. Well, besides that, as you can see, this list is also like super standard. Like, we decided to play the talents but not playing Crossout Designator, because on this deck, the Crossout Designator of the deck is Psyframe Gear Gamma. Yeah, of course, drawing the Psyframe driver is super awkward, but the amount of times that you can resolve a Gamma on your own turn, and that being the card that will win you the game against Fuvalos, against Draw, against Purulia, is super high. And not only that, but you can also, with the cards you have on your current deck list, you can also believe that this Gamma is just like your Crossout Designator plus a Fuvalos going first package. Especially Polo side, this is the way I figure out these cards are, because playing one Psyframe Gear Gamma and one Psyframe Driver is the exact same thing as playing one Crossout Designator, and by that I mean the one good card, to play one Fuvalos, one of the bad cards that you are not willing to draw at all, but way more impactful, because you can also draw this card going second. This card is super strong going second. As you can see, we have 9 cards on current format that are at least decent. We have Purulias, Draw, Lockbird, and Fuvalos. So by adding one other card that can also work as Crossout Designator, but also work as a hand trap to try to win against your opponent, because it's one of the most impactful ones, is super important in this deck, and is a card that I don't change at all. Unless I know my opponent's not playing any hand traps, I'm not taking Gamma out of my deck in any kind of situations, and I really enjoy having this card over my list. The 2 Nibiru's, it's just kind of weird. Like, sometimes I was playing 3, sometimes I was playing 1. I like it to have the 2 Nibiru's just like a concession to Malice matchups, where I really believe playing 2, I can draw these cards with my Mulcharmis, or if my opponent starts trying to get way more aggressive over Charmis, I can draw this Nibiru, and then I sided the 3rd copy just trying to have a better side deck ratio against Malice, and also this Nibiru works as my going first side deck card, because even though against Rafael Mitsurugi I do side out one Nibiru, I just keep one Nibiru in my main deck even against the Rafael Mitsurugi while I'm going second. While I'm going first, I wanna have the 3 Nibirus, because to play over your board, your opponent's gonna need to spend so many resources to do so, and then the Nibiru can get really powerful at that point. That's super important. That's why I ended up deciding to play 2 Nibirus, the Primal Being. Over the event, over my main deck cards, I really can say I enjoyed almost every single one of them. The only card I really felt like it was not as outstanding as other cards was Mulcharmi Purulia. My thing with Mulcharmi Purulia is that I don't think it's doing enough. Like, I played against 6 Malice and I played against 4 Rafael Mitsurugi, so that's why the Purulia might not seem that good to me. But I really don't think this Purulia performed that well, and also this card has some kind of curse, because when you activate it against Malice, the card on your opponent's hand instantly magically becomes a Malice field spell. It's super funny to see. But the problem over the current format is that there is no really good cards to play instead of this Purulia. It's just the kind of concession you gotta do, because basically you have to. There is nothing much special on it, and that's super sad. Like, it's super weird on how the format you are currently playing, you gotta play some kind of card like that. But I think it's also part of Yu-Gi-Oh games. This kind of thing happens times to times, and then you just gotta play the most impactful hand traps ones, and then you just cut the non-impactful hand traps, I guess. Well, I feel like this covers almost everything over the main deck. I'm pretty sure this covers everything on the main deck. I should have played a second copy of Murakumo, or even cut the Futsu to play a second Murakumo. That's something I'm definitely looking after this event. Even though I don't have more events after YCS São Paulo, I still think this deck is gonna be played from a lot of players. So it's still super interesting to see things like that and how it will work, how this deck will develop into another tournaments and another good players' hands. So yeah, I feel like this covers the entire main deck. I don't think that there is anything else to say at this point. Let's go for the side deck. But well, I needed to have 6 cards to change my Fuvalus and my Perulias, so I played triple Solemn Warning, 1 Mitsurugi Great Purification, a second copy of Manju, and a third copy of Nibiru. As I told you guys, this third copy of Nibiru is not only a going second card, is also a going first card, not only going first card, sorry, is also going second card, specifically against combo night matchups. Is not as good against Rise or Mitsurugi, but can pull off some good tricks in other matchups, especially like in Fiendsmith variants of Mitsurugi or in Malice decks. But at the end, I don't really think I love it to play the Solemn Warnings. My theory here is like, you needed to play at least a bit more of Engine to go first, so you can try to beat your opponent's Draw Unlock Bird way more consistent, but it's not only Draw Unlock Bird, and it's not like Solemn Warning has been doing enough. Of course, I wish I could play like a Trust package and then play like Mischief of the Gnome and play Simorg Fiends, but I really don't think I had the room for it. That's why I only played, for example, 2 more Charming Meows in this deck, but I really wish I could look further on this deck list and try to check cards that applies as extenders / starters that though does not spend your normal summon. But the thing is, the good ones, in my opinion, they are already on my deck, so the next best one is Manju, and I decided to play just one because I was more comfortable with, I was already super comfortable with the amount of cards I had in my main deck. I just wanted to change to have at least one more Manju because I'm also cutting 6 possible normal summons. Even though the Perulias and the Fuvalus, they are mainly your hand traps, in a deck where you do not play that many amount of normal summons, it's super important to have this possibility as well, and while you are cutting 6, you can add back Manju, that is a super good card in this kind of scenario. I just really don't think Solemn Warning did enough to me all over the weekend. It's not like the card was bad, it's not like a Solemn Strike would have been better, it's just like, I feel like if you're willing to side one card to go first, like a hard going first card, I think the card has to do enough, and that's not something I felt all over Solemn Warning. Well, the triple sales, they are mandatory, so I have nothing much to explain, and the Psyframe Gear Delta is the card that I was siding in on every single game I was going second. Doesn't matter the matchup I was playing, I was siding in one Psyframe Gear Delta to try to beat Mitsurugi Rito, to try to beat Bonfire, 7 Tachyon for example from the Mitsurugi Rizal deck, or to try to beat Malice and their Mistaken Arrest. The Psyframe Gear Delta is also super important because since everyone is playing College, Talents, and Crossout Designator, and cards like that to try to beat your hand traps, having this negate for the powerful spells that everyone is playing as one-offs on their deck lists is also super good and also super important, and also makes our Psyframe Gear Gamma on main deck have way more sense. I then complemented with 2 Bestials, 1 Bestial Magnahood and 1 Bestial Druiser. This was more a respect to Fiendsmith decks. I was seeing a rise on the popularity of the Fiendsmith Mitsurugi, of the Fiendsmith decks, and I really was feeling very comfortable with Bestial cards, like with Magnahood and Druiser specifically, because they are the most strongest one. I'm not willing to play Baldrake because I'm not going first with Bestials on my deck. In most of cases, it's just like going second card in general, unless I'm playing against a Fiendsmith deck. And also the Bestials, they are kind of good, like people say they are very good against Rise of Mitsurugi, but I feel like it goes on the same way of Nibiru, the deck has so many lines to play around it, to play under it, and in most cases he will have a Murakumo plus cross on table when you try to Bestial, so the card gets really inefficient at that point. So I was super sold on this decision of cards, and then I had to side 2 more cards, and I decided to play 2 more Charming Meows. Even though the card is not super impactful against Malice, I still think you gotta have something to hope on if you are playing against one of the most scary decks of the format. That was, by the way, my main conclusion after this event, is that most likely should have respected Malice a bit more over my deck building, because it was a deck I most faced, and I won against Trem and I won against 3 and I lose against 3. It was my 2 losses on Swiss were to Malice, and my loss on Top Cut was to Malice as well. So even though this deck really fulfills my way to play of like I wanna destroy Rise of Mitsurugi, I went like 3-1 against Rise of Mitsurugi, and my game on playoff was super unlucky. Like the game I lost to Sebastian Serna were like really kinda unbelievable. I took like it was Fulvalus, Ash, Lightning Storm, Habakiri, one of those hands. Anyway, I still really like this deck on the way it's going, and I just think you gotta try to see how to respect Malice a bit more and try to adjust your 6 cards on your side deck. Just to show you guys some of my side deck patterns, I'm gonna open the solo mode on Dwelling Book, just trying to show to you guys how I am trying to make it. So, if I'm going first, my most common pattern of side was just doing this 6 and call it a day. If I'm playing against Malice, I will also include like triple copies of Artifact Lancea on the spots of draw and lock birds. Besides that, if I'm going second against a Mitsurugi Rizal deck, the way I am siding my deck for the going second is super common at this point. I am going to play the 2 Deltas, and I'm also going to play Magra Druiser. Even though I don't really love the Beastals on this matchup, I really think they are more important than Called by the Grave, than the attack on Nibiru, than Futsu, and then Mitsurugi Ritual. You are willing to approach this matchup in a different way, so you can't afford to draw those dead cards, and that's why I take them off when I'm going second. Well, against Malice, my side deck for going second has triple Lanceas, has Nibiru, has Delta, and has Meows. So I'm siding in 8 cards, and these 8 cards, in my opinion, they are the most impactful ones in these matchups. And usually what I'm willing to take off is the triple draw, the Mitsurugi Ritual, the Futsu, the Called by, the Talents, and the Night Sword Serpent. I don't love this siding out at all. I feel like, yeah, you gotta take out your Night Sword Serpent, but against Malice, you kinda gotta have some faith on you, because if they full combo, doesn't matter having Called by the Grave, doesn't matter having Mitsurugi Mirror. If they half combo under your Fulvalus, if they pass like with Red Ransom, with Malice Mirror set, to banish the Red Ransom, to banish the White Rabbit, and to win the game, doesn't really matter at all what you are willing to do with your Called by the Grave or the Talents. The card's gonna be super inefficient. And that's something I learned over the Malice, is that sometimes you just gotta hope you draw your bones here, like your Lancears, your Fulvalus, and then you gotta have as much engine as possible to try to put up some advantage against your opponent that will be good enough to play through his board, the half board they're gonna make under that kind of cards, and also to be able to play against your opponent when he does, for example, the Red Ransom plus Malice in the Mirrors kinda of scenario, and that's why I decided to side it this way. So it was super interesting that by accident, the 2 Meows, it made it so I had 8 cards to play against Malice, and I just sided the cards I really don't wanna in this kind of matchup. Many people would argument to take out Tract and Lurie, because then the opponent can reborn the White Rabbit, and the White Rabbit effect banishes the Lurie, but in my honest opinion, I really don't think if you are willing to resolve these cards, if your opponent getting to the point where he can have like GW6, and they also have Binder Engrave, I don't think you are winning the game anyway, so yeah, whatever. I just prefer to have this kind of cards that helps me play through my opponent boards and put up many pressure, especially because I am also making my opponent fear the DDD Wave High King Caesar, one of the best cards against the Malice deck. Well, that's my side deck patterns, and now talking about my extra deck. I play 1 Requiem, 1 Sequence, 1 Agon Day, 1 Moon, 1 IP. The IP here is basically your end board against Rise of Mitsurugi. You go for Necrokeep plus Engraver just to force Nibiru, and if they don't have it, you just make a IP Masquerona pass against Rise of Mitsurugi, because Caesar is super mid against X.Dex. You play 1 SP, 1 Dark, 1 Dynamondo, 1 Gallant Granite, the Caesar, Pharaoh Imps, Exciton, Duke of Demise, Necrokeep Princess, and Desiree. I really like the Feral Imps on this deck, especially while you are playing a higher Fiendsmith package. What can actually happen a lot is that you go for the Fiendsmith package of your deck, and then you go for the for sequence, and then your sequence can summon, for example, Duke of Demise. Duke of Demise gets you an extra normal summon of a Fuvalus, for example, and then you just go for Agnum Day. Agnum Day summons back Lacrima, and you can go for the King of the Feral Imps line to search you Habakiri and win you the game on the spot. Besides that, I really also like Duke of Demise lines. If your Lacrima gets impermanence, for example, you can try to set up your Duke of Demise to then go for Agnum Day, reborning the Lacrima and using the Lacrima with the Agnum Day equipped to go for Necroequip, and then you can also get the access to Caesar, so it's pretty much a utility card on your extra deck, and I've really evaluated that this kind of cards, it's super important to play. The only two cards I really don't think I made at all on my extra deck were Dark, the Dark Charmer, and the Evil Swarm Excitonight. I really like these two cards. In this deck, you are not willing to combo that much, and the combo pieces you have, they are already on your extra deck. So these two last spots, they can be literally anything. You could play a second Requiem, you could play a Chaos Angel, you could play plenty of cards, but in my opinion, you are willing to play some kinda of utility cards. Cards that will help you to break your opponent board in specific situations. While you have some flex spots on your extra deck, you should evaluate how much would I do this card and how much by doing this card is gonna be my only way to win the games. And that's why I ended up deciding to play Evil Swarm Excitonight and playing the Dark Charmer. Those are my theories, at least, on why you should 100% play this kind of cards, okay? Well, with that being said, let me think if there is something else I gotta say. Yeah, no, I really think this pretty much covers all the deck list decisions, and now on why you should play this deck instead of the most popular ones, or why at least I decided to play this deck instead of the most popular ones. My main goal with this deck was to be able to play through my opponent's hand traps, and this deck, it's a machine. Like, there were many times where my opponents made me double Fuvalos, and the only draw I give them was from Habakiri effect, for example. So my opponent had one of the most broken hands on modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Of double Fuvalos, and with all my engine, I could just give him 2 draws and still set up a super solid deck. Draw Unlock Bird is most likely the card that bothers you the most, but you can still play super well into it, and Purulia, it basically doesn't bother you at all. You are giving 1-2 maximum draws to Mulcharm Purulia. But what I like more over this deck than the pure Mitsurugi that we saw having success with, for example, Joshua Schmidt bringing it from the top cut of the French nationals, is that I am playing basically the same good cards from the pure version of this deck, but I'm playing a better engine if my deck gets drawled, and if my opponent don't Fuvalus me, I have a way better end board than the pure. Like, the end board I'm doing under Fuvalus is the end board the pure deck is doing every single time. And that bothers me a lot on why you will not play the pure version of this deck over the Fiendsmith version, because it helps you to play under draw, it's super strong when your opponent doesn't have Fuvalus, it also helps you to have more cards that play without spending normal summon, and that's why it made me fall in love with this deck. With all that being said, I would like to say again a big shout out to everyone. If you have any other questions, please comment down below. And with all that being said, thank you so much, goodbye, see you next time. Thanks guys!